Okay, in the next section of the lessons, you have got the actual story, which is the full story. So Sam and Samira and the search for solar power. So it starts off, it's got like chapters to do with each part of the story, and at the end of the chapter, there's an activity for them to do. So in this one, they are brainstorming, they're talking about electricity, about wasting electricity, and talking about Sam says electricity doesn't run out, we just switch it on and it's there, and Samira explaining that electricity has to be made somewhere and that we need to make sure that we're looking after it. And so they're talking about thinking of everything they use electricity for the day. So that's the first thing that they're doing. They're creating a mind map of all the things that we use electricity for in our homes. And what I've done here is in the example, I've broken it up into its rooms. So they are in this activity, they are decomposing, they're breaking the house up into all of its different rooms and thinking about in each room what specifically they're using electricity for. So I've given them an example, but then learners can carry on there. Getting to know the family. So this one is about abstraction. This is getting to know the 4 people in the household over here. So they've got a whole lot of information and they have to figure out what each family member enjoys doing the most. So they have to read the sentences of information and they have to abstract from it the important information to figure out which person likes which activity. Then chapter 2 is talking about how much energy we use. So, Nana's talking about back in her day when they didn't have electricity, and making sure to use it responsibly. So, talking about how electricity is measured and how we have to pay for the specific electricity we use a month. And Sam's asking about some things using more electricity and some things using less electricity. So that's something that I think learners wouldn't have considered unless they have like an electricity meter in the house or they use a generator, and then maybe they've got a little bit of an idea of like when you turn a kettle on, it uses way more electricity than, for example, say a TV or a light switch. So they're looking at different uh, amounts of electricity. So this shows approximately how many watts of electricity different items use, and it's staggered from the thing that uses the most, which is a geyser, to the thing that uses less. So yeah, so it goes through all the things. So dishwasher, geyser, kettle, iron, and they can see I'm using hundreds blocks because they've got a little bit of experience with that. Is using hundreds blocks to show how much electricity each of the items uses. Right down to the energy saver light bulb over there, which is the least. Um, and then what you're going to do is you're going to use that information to work out how much electricity a household uses and use the guide on the previous pages to color in each appliance. So they have to work out how much electricity you use in the different places, and they're going to color it in. So, for example, if in their house they have a geyser, then they would color in 300 blocks. They'll color in 1, 2, 3 blocks over there. And then maybe they also have a vacuum cleaner. So they'd color in 1 block and another 8 like lines. So they color in this last block. On the next one, they'd color in 8 lines. And so they're going to keep coloring in parts of the block until they figure out how much electricity a household uses. And they can use what I said there is they can use this mind map that they came up with to sort of figure out all the different things. If there's something that's listed here that's not on this thing over here, then they can Google it and they can find out the answer for how many watts of electricity it uses. And they're going to color in. So teachers might need to make more photostats of this second page over here, obviously, if learners have more things to add. Then there's just a little Sudoku over here. So this is appliance Sudoku. So I've made it so that learners can cut out these blocks, so they can cut off the bottom of the page and cut out the blocks, and then they have to put one of each appliance in each row, in each column, and each block. So it's normal Sudoku. It's just a little bit easier for younger learners. And again, this is something that learners can do, that teachers can do as a class, or it is a really nice logical thinking activity for learners to do on their own. And then it continues. So talking about electricity, how much electricity we use, and how we can reduce the amount of electricity we use. So this is, the learners have to think about how they can reduce electricity. Like, for example, turning off lights when you don't need them, or putting geyser on a timer. And they're going to make a poster where they look at how to reduce electricity at home. And what you can maybe do, what teachers can maybe do, is come up with some ways to reduce electricity as a class, come up with like some ideas, and then give each person or each pair or each group a specific idea to work with on their poster. And they can make it really colorful. You can talk about, posters about putting like nice clear writing on, putting a picture to go with it, making it colorful, making it look attractive. And then learners can take that poster home and share it with their families. The next chapter starts to look at alternative sources of power. So there's different types of power, and I mean, this is something that learners learn in the older grades, but you can touch on it here in the foundation phase, looking at the difference between sources of power that use fossil fuels and renewable sources of energy like wind and sun. So they're talking about solar energy, and they're relating it to a food chain, how the energy passes from the sun to the grass, to the grasshopper, to the lizard, to the hawk. So they're talking about how the sun gives plants energy, and how the sun can also be used to give us energy. And they're doing an experiment to um, to prove that the sun has energy. So there's an experiment that they can do using baking or metal trays or plates, blocks of chocolate, metal spoons, ice cubes, crayon shavings, and a sunny day. So hopefully teachers can do this in summer. So basically, what they're going to do is they are going to uh, put different objects on metal trays and have a look at the effect that the sun has. So the power of heat, and how the heat melts the ice or melts the chocolate or melts the crayons over there. And that's obviously linking up to how the sun can, has power to generate heat and to generate. So over here, they're looking at an experiment about how much sun they get in their area. So they're looking at different days of the week and how much sun they have at different times of the day. So learners or teachers can discuss and find out a way that they're going to record different types of sun. For example, like the sun is rising, or it's full sun, or it's overcast. So they're going to use this graph over here to record the level of sun at different times of the day. And they can decide, if they want to record it using pictures or maybe percentages or like a rating from 1 to 10. So they can decide, as long as they're using the same scale for the whole week, is they can decide how exactly they want to record it. So they're looking at how many hours of sun they have during the week. The next chapter is all about renewable energy. So this is looking specifically at how the sun and other sources of renewable energy can create electricity. So here we have solar power, wind power, and they're talking about the sun and how it is the source of energy for a lot of things. And solar power is created using solar panels, and how the basics of how solar panels work. So they talk here specifically about how much power, how much electricity each solar panel can generate in an hour, okay, depending on how much sun there is. So over here, this is just a coloring in page for learners, showing them the basics of how solar power works, and how it can power things in our houses. Then there's two games that they can play. So uh, there's obviously a level 1 easier game, and there's a level 2 slightly more difficult game. And learners need to collect solar energy. You can put tokens or coins over each sun icon, and then learners take it in turns to take off 1, 2, or 3 tokens. The player who takes the last token off is the winner. So this is a little bit of logical deductive reasoning in that they need to think carefully about how many tokens are left, and make predictions about how many tokens they need to take off so that they can be the last person to take tokens off. And obviously, this one's a little bit more harder because there are a little bit more tokens. The last chapter over here has to do with a solar powered house. And what people have to consider when getting solar power, for example, like how many solar panels they have, what their electricity usage is at home, and they can figure it out over there. And then they have to design a ultimate solar powered house. So there are two factors in this. Obviously, it can be about creating solar power, so lots of solar panels, and it can also be about finding ways to reduce the power usage of the house. So maybe designing a house, for example, that has lots of natural light coming in, okay, or a house that uses a gas stove, or a house that uses has lots of openings so the cool air can come in so that you don't need an aircon. So just having learners like a brainstorm how they could design the ultimate like power saving, power generating house. And I mean, here learners can even come up with imaginative ideas for how it works. And then the last one is just a little activity where learners have to connect the solar panels to the battery. They can cut out these cards, and what they have to do is they have to work at arranging the cards so that all of the wires connect to each other and connect the solar panels to the battery. So it's just a little bit of a logical thinking puzzle. And that's the end of the activities.